Welcome to Faith Works Live.
Faith Works Live is the name of the show. It is a good day. Do you guys grow up singing that in Sunday school? It is a good day to give thanks unto the Lord. All those little psalms in Sunday school. Like, I am learning more and more, not only as a mom, but just as a human trying to follow Jesus in this world, that those little Sunday school songs had it right. And that the more that we sing that, like, the simplest truths still true, and they still strengthen. So that's where my brain is. I am excited because I do believe it's a good day. We get to look at what winning looks like. There's so much winning, everybody. So much winning. And I say that with a smile, kind of a wry smile, because for the last couple of decades of my aware life, and my political advocacy, just being involved as a voter, campaigning for issues that I care about and candidates that I believed in, a lot of the times those candidates did not win. And what I would hear over and over again is, you just got to lay your principles at the door. Essentially, you can't be too out there, you can't be too outspoken, you have to run to the middle. We kept hearing that. You have to keep your powder dry. You don't want to, go out too hard on any one of these issues, because that could be divisive. You have to play to the middle. You have to, just kind of equivocate. You have to be sort of mealy mouthed milk toast. Mitt Romney comes to mind, but that's another story. And that's how they told us that you couldn't be truly conservative and win. Well, I beg to differ. And I bring Exhibit A, a good friend of the show, awesome lady all around. Samantha Fett has joined us on our airwaves before, and you will recall, if you are a loyal and OG listener, from just a few months ago, Sam was on our airwaves. She was talking about issues that really matter. She was talking about parental rights, freedom of speech, what they are teaching in what passes for education in the schools these days, concerns about, protecting women and women's rights. And she was very bold, and she was gearing up for a contested primary in our state. And she made a promise that she would come back to us and let us know how that race went, and that when she won, we would be the first interview. And lo and behold, Sam, here we are. It's good to see you, because we get to congratulate you on winning your race. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm very excited to be here with the first interview. We worked hard, and I was just really excited to see the results. And you've been a big supporter and have allowed me to use your airwaves to talk about some things that parents and conservatives alike have been concerned about for a long time. And it's really exciting to be on the side of winning, and it has given me a breath of fresh air. And did I say I'm excited? Because I am.
Well, we are. We're excited for you. And I think one of the, not just because you're an awesome person, and because I know that you worked your tail off, in farm language, you worked your tail off out there in the district. Did you knock on every door in the district? Like, it seemed like that's what you spent at least the last 6 months of your life doing, the last year of your life doing.
Yeah, so we've been campaigning for 9 months, and we've been door knocking that entire time. I told all of my good friends that I will see them June 5th. Don't expect a phone call from me, because I'm going to be extremely busy. But in reality, we just were very focused. I mean, a lot of people ask, what's the secret? How did you do it? And the secret is this: work hard, period. End of story. We made a plan. We came up with good, the messaging that we had, there wasn't any secret to that except truth. Talking to people like they're people. I'm a person living in my community. And so I went out as a person living in my community and saying, hey, this is what's going on, and I'm going to run for office. But we walked the entire district. We focused on people that were typical primary voters. We totaled about 8,500 homes since last August. A little bit more than that. I stopped counting the last week because I was just needed to get out there.
Yep.
We hit everyone about 3 times, sometimes more, and we were getting messages like, Sam, I know I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for you. You've been here so many times. And and I kept going back, because I was like, well, first of all, I know you support me, and I just wanted to say hi, but also, like, don't forget to go vote. I think that's towards the end, that was the message, that people need to go vote, and they need to understand the primaries are the first step. If we don't have a good candidate to put up against a Democrat, we were failing already before the race even starts. And so I wanted them to know, number one, I was a serious candidate. I was going to work hard. I think, you hear people talk about how a candidate works during their campaign is how they will work in the state house. And so I wanted to prove to voters that I am going to do everything I can and put everything into this because it means that much to me. So that's what we did, and we stuck with it. We didn't waver. We didn't take days off. People were like, "Well, you stopped door knocking when it was raining, right?" And I said, "Well, only if it was raining really hard." Um,
Come rain, come sleet, come snow. Nothing will stop the dedicated campaigner.
right, right. I mean, we also had the caucus season in there, so there was so much political activity, and I was worried about political fatigue and people getting tired of politics. And so the joke I would say is, we don't get a break, do we? Like we just keep rolling with the next cycle.
Yeah.
But in truth, it was hard work visiting with people, making those connections, because that's what matters at the end. You're going to be representing these people. You need to know who they are. You need to know where they work. You need to know what kind of jobs they have, what their families are like, what they're worried about, what, the things they like to do. I mean, just understanding truly who these people are at every level is how a leader can provide the right results, because different parts of Iowa have different kinds of people, right?
Sure.
So, in our district, we have farmers, but we also have, suburban areas. And so you have to understand your demographics of your area. And that was the purpose. That was the purpose, to get out and get to know people.
And what are you hearing as far as issues? I know we've talked about this in the past, but as you
Yeah.
said, if you're listening to people, so you come with your principles, your values, your understandings of certain issues, your passions, what are you also hearing? And then that gets informed by what you're also hearing from other voters, from your potential employers, so to speak, when you're running for office. So were those things always aligned? Were there ways that you were kind of challenged or changing your approach? How did you find that process, and how did that inform the stands that you're willing to take as the next representative from your district?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we started this campaign with the message of dedicated to the next generation, and we ended with the message of dedicated to the next generation. Um, we So going out and talking with everyone, people are concerned about their kids. They're concerned about their kids from all different levels. I mean, we have obviously issues with education. We have issues with social media. We have lots of different variables coming at our kids on all levels, and they feel like they're under attack. We started talking about a lot of sensitive things like human trafficking, and how that whole industry is being fed by the things that the kids are exposed to now, and just these terrible things, right? And so people are concerned about a lot of that, and so we said we're going to be a bold leader. We're going to stand on conservative principles and be a bold leader. I will say that I only got a few pushback from people that said, well, I don't know if we want bold leadership. I don't know if we want to be controversial. And I said, well, first of all, standing for conservative values isn't controversial, but number two, I want to be bold on standing for lower taxes too. Like, this doesn't always have to be divisive issues. It could be just standing for our freedoms, right? Standing for our Constitution in a bold way, standing for lower taxes in a bold way, being fiscally responsible in a bold way. All of those things require bold leadership if you want to see results. So just on people getting to know me and understanding that once I grab a hold of a topic, or I'm passionate about something, that comes through. The messaging continued that. I mean, there's a lot of talk about border security, where our country's headed in that capacity. So there's a lot of worry on the ground. That's what I will say. A lot of worry on lots of different levels. We talk about cost of groceries, things like that, but we know a lot of that comes from the federal, and there's not a lot we can do except make sure that at our local level, we're doing everything we can do, if that makes sense. So that was kind of the message. It's like, okay, I know federally we got a big mess, but what can we control in our own backyard? And that's school board, that's city councils, that's your state house, that's your senators. So let's dig into those types of things, and that's really what the conversations were at the doors.
Yeah. And I think if the last, well, let's say 4 years have taught us anything, it's that our local governance matters so much. And we've had that conversation so many times that if we don't step up and have trustworthy and bold leadership at our local level, there's nothing that a potential tyranny couldn't cram down on us. And that was the founder's vision. It was this system of checks and balances that power should emanate up from the people, and that we would choose our representatives so that they would be close to us, they would reflect our values, they would know the things that we care about, and that they would be in sync, that we could trust them and be in concert, and they were also accountable to us. And I was just, I have to say, I was just flabbergasted at what I'm seeing coming out of Washington recently, looking at how our nation handled COVID, for example, with Anthony Fauci and other reptiles, that the moment that they are not accountable to the people, the moment that they are bureaucrats that think that they just know better than everybody else, that's when our freedoms disappear. That's when our freedoms have been threatened, because we need to have those local leaders standing up so that when absolute power comes knocking at the door and they think, okay, well, we just know better than you, and we're going to just strip you of your constitutional rights for your own good, don't you know, that we have local leaders that are standing in the way and saying, no, that does not happen here. Our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. We're going to do that in our state. And we're seeing more and more states and more local jurisdictions stand up, because we understand not only the value of that, but the absolute critical necessity of it, I think, at this point. And I know that that's something you've advocated for, local governance. I can't imagine anybody, even if they disagree on certain, maybe certain stands that you might take, would fail to recognize at this point that local is the way to go, that we have to trust and hire by our votes good local leadership to stand in the gap for us.
Yeah. What I will say is, a lot of times people say, what issues are you running on? Why are you so concerned about getting into politics? And I would say just the protection of our freedoms and the expansion of our freedoms. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, don't you understand that that's always under attack? And I want to be there to protect those things and be accountable to the people and stand for a constitution. I mean, so it's not always about having a one issue, like, you know, education, right? We want to reform education. We've talked about that many times, but this is really that piece that you're talking about is really just having the representative that is willing to protect our freedoms, and expand our liberties, period. I mean, that's just, that's part of the process, because there's always different governance policies that sometimes you do this trade-off. It's like, well, we want to come in and, try to tell the city how to run things, for example, whatever the issue might be. And it's like, well, okay, you can't really do that as a legislator, but are you doing that because the city is trumping rights of individuals, right? So you have to do this balance of local and state. And so there's been lots of conversations about that. And my answer has always been, if someone is telling you, putting their finger on you and taking a right away, then yes, it's absolutely my responsibility to protect you from that overstep and come in and say, nope, you can't take those rights away from those people. So that's an overarching thing, that you have to be principled, right? We open this conversation with being principled. If you understand that fundamentally how the founders started this country, then any challenge that comes your way, you're going to be able to look at it from that objective standpoint and keep your emotions out of it, regardless of, obviously there's money and all of these crazy things going on in politics. But if you just stand principled and follow those core values, there's no hard question that can be asked. If that makes sense.
Well, and you mentioned money, and I know there is a lot of distrust in general from honest, hardworking, everyday people, and they see folks that go, I would say, to the state capitol, but in particular to Washington, D.C., and they see them leave, and they see some of that shine start to come in, and some of the maybe money starting to roll into the bank account. They see people that start to change once they get into positions of power, and I see that in a couple of both the I would say the spiritual level and also just the principle common sense level. I'm like, something's happening here. And I'm a little concerned about this. I'm not sure I trust this. If they stop taking your phone calls, if they stop, responding and start voting in a way that was different than what they always told you, it's worth checking out there. It seems like something doesn't smell right. But how do you, I guess, approach that level of concern that people have bordering on just washing their hands of everything? I hear that from a lot of people saying everything's broken, the system's, it's rigged, to use a common term these days. We can't trust the system. How do you then approach voters like that and try to renew their faith and their participation in the system such that we can still operate as a republic? And then I guess the other twin side of that is your own personal level of accountability, and what are some of the things that you have put in place in your life so that those temptations don't find fertile ground, as they can with any of us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, number one, faith in God. I mean, your moral compass, where you lead. I mean, all of my decisions are based there. And so as long as you have a strong faith, I think, like I mentioned before, in principles, you can really answer any question and be confident of it. Now, I will say, yes, people are like, oh, you're getting into politics, or you're going to make a lot of money. And it's like, no. So at a state level, I mean, state representatives don't make a lot of money, and that's okay, right? We're working part-time, supposedly. And so, but what I have found is that individuals in our community are been generous and willing to support a campaign that they believe is supporting the values. And so I haven't really experienced a situation where I'm having like all these groups come to me and say, I'm going to give you money, right? Because it's been, I say this in one of my videos, this campaign is powered by the people. It is people from all over. I mean, I have had people from, even out of state, friends that know me on Twitter and that just have seen my messaging. They're like, I support this gal, and so I think it's really important that as conservatives, we lift up other conservatives financially as well. So those are individuals, and that's so well appreciated, because you do need money to run a political campaign. You have to buy signs and, all of these things. But if you're working hard, I mean, it doesn't cost that much money to go knock on someone's door and hand them a card and say, here I am. And that's what I was telling people at the doors. It's like, I don't really need that much money. I just need you to understand my message, and I need you to go vote. And, it's like, because, then there's all these sign wars, and do you have the most signs? And I'm like, remember, signs don't vote, people vote. The most important thing is making those personal connections and understanding what people need and want, and be authentic. And I don't know, you can't really fake it. So I guess I don't know. I don't know how. I haven't been thrown a lot of money, so I don't know what's going to happen, right? But I mean, and it will take money to win a the primary. But again, it's those connections that you make with people that really matter the most. So money to me doesn't. It comes when it's needed, and it just shows up when it's needed. So I know that's cliche to say, but that's how it's been working so far. So I'm going to roll with that, and, just keep working hard.
Trust the provision, right?
Yes.
Your comment about how you haven't been offered anything yet reminds me of that scene in Fiddler on the Roof, which is an awesome, underrated musical, where the poor milkman, Tevye, is talking to the socialist wannabe boyfriend. And, he's Russian right before the revolution, so that's going to work out well. But he goes, the socialist goes, money's the world's curse. And Debbie says, may the Lord smite me with it, and may I never recover. Yeah. So, yeah, we all have different temptations, folks. We're all works in progress. That's true. So I guess I'll check back with you later and see if that's anything that has changed. But as you're working ahead, I know you're just barely like catching your breath, recovering. Hopefully you had just a little bit of me time. You had some, getting recovered time off as we speak. It's been a few days, and now you get to turn your attention. You don't get that much time off, because now you get to turn your attention towards November. Obviously, this is going to be an exciting election. I was working at our local poll district here, and that's a long day for everybody, but I would advise folks to do it, to volunteer, or I mean, sometimes you get paid or stipend, and you get to work and see the process in action and make sure that there is voting integrity in your local precincts, in your county. You can also go and work through your parties to volunteer to watch the polls if that's something that you're passionate about and you want to be sure that everything's on the up and up and everything's working as it's supposed to. So I advise folks to participate in that way if you possibly can. But there was a surprising turnout for a primary, because a lot of people don't even realize that it's happening. Plus, it was storming. Like, there was almost a tornado that just came through our for like an hour. Everyone was like, "Are we gonna survive? What do we do? What do we do with all these ballots if there's a tornado?" And there's procedure for that. But I advise people to get involved and to work. All that being said, a lot of folks were like, yeah, I wasn't super excited about what was going on. There weren't a ton of contested races in our area, but they're like, see you in November. So at least there's a base of people that are aware that this is happening. I would expect all the models say that turnout is going to determine big surprise, turnout is going to determine the election. But some races, that's more critical than others. So as you look ahead, all of that is prelude to say, what are you expecting come November, and what do you do between now and then to work for a general election audience and have the attacks from the opponents already begun?
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, first I will preface that we didn't have the best turnout in Warren County. I think we were about 12% of voters came out. So, I mean, we had a low turnout. It's typical in primaries, but I was hoping for a little bit more and trying to get out the vote kind of situation, right? So, but with the general, we'll be still working on the ground to get out the vote. I mean, I think with the presidential election coming up, we have, there's kind of built in the cake that there's going to be a lot of people out voting, right? So that will be number one, helpful. My opponent in this race, who is a Democrat, will be out campaigning hard, I'm sure, from the beginning, because this district is very red, and so people are typically supporting the Republican nominee.
Okay.
So it's going to be up to him to try to convince people that I'm a terrible person and I shouldn't be voted for, and therefore vote for the Democrat who believes everything against what I believe. And so that's going to be a hard sell.
Fair enough.
Right? I mean, that's how it's going to work, right? So it will be contested, and we'll continue to work hard and talk about the messaging. And I think this is where it comes into being a bold leader and standing for conservative values boldly, regardless of the attacks that come from the other side. They can call names and tell me I'm wrong and those types of things. But where my moral base stands, standing on the Constitution, it's really hard for someone to be like, well, I don't agree with the Constitution. I mean, I guess people can say that, but that seems pretty crazy to me. But I think in this district, most people are on board with that. So as far as getting out the vote, I think people just know with the presidential election that they're going to have to participate if they want to see the right people win. So I think I'll be, it's good for me that that's happening in November. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to work hard, because, I will tell you this. I want people to be proud to vote for me in November, not just because I'm on the Republican ticket. And so in order for that to, for those people to feel that way, they have to know who I am. And so that for me is, I'm going to be running my race that way. And I want this to be more of a movement of, I trust Samantha and I want her to do, if she wins, we all win, right? So that's the message. And so, because that's truly how I feel. I want to get down to the Capitol and really work hard on policies that help people. I mean, that's the reason I'm doing this, because I really like that piece of politics. But unfortunately, you have to go through all of this process to get there, to actually do the work. And so, it's exhausting, but it's just, that's the task, that's the journey. So I want people at the end of the day to be proud to vote for someone like me that's going to represent their values. So if I can do that, if I can motivate them to do that, then I think we're going to be solid in November. So that's what I'm going with.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Great place to start. Great place to continue. You got to keep running the race. I know that's the challenge, is that it gets tiring after a while. And I know that you've worked so hard in this and that the fight isn't quite yet over. So there's always November. I think you will be rewarded for all of your just exhausting hard work that you've been doing. Sam, how has this process changed you over all of these months? How is it different than you expected? And how are you maybe a little bit different from going through it?
I think, when you first get into politics, people say, well, what do you believe in? Oh, and you have 3 minutes to tell me. Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that was, I mean, when someone first told me that, I thought, well, because here's the thing, we're regular people, we just believe what we believe. I've never had to summarize it and put it on a piece of paper. I'm
Mhm.
just living my life, believing the things I believe, right? So I think now I've learned how to concisely label myself and talk about myself in short snippets. Um, I'm really tired of talking about myself. I told my friends, can we talk about something other than me,
Sure.
please? Um, and so there's that. So just learning how to be humble in a way of talking about yourself, right? So that's been an interesting dynamic that you don't really know how to do until you practice doing it and get thrown into it. A very unexpected thing I would say is this process has brought our family so close together. We didn't know what to expect, and we struggled and worked hard together, and that's made us a stronger family. And I am so excited about that and so blessed that that's the case. My husband didn't like politics at all, and so when I told him that I was running for office, he he wasn't really excited about it at all um at first, but we talked about it obviously, and he was like, I know that this is where you need to be, so you need to do it. And so it's just brought our whole family together, extended family as well. My mom, my mother-in-law, my all of these people have come together and helped and supported, and wow, that's so awesome. So that's been unexpected. But in addition, door knocking and meeting these people and making genuine friendships. We had a watch party and a few people showed up that I just met door knocking, and my family's like, who are these people? I'm like, oh, that's Larry from down the street. I just met him. And they're like, oh, and now these people that were strangers are now welcomed into my home and with my family. And so that's been just a really cool thing. So that's what I've learned along the way. That's how I've changed. I think I have more confidence in just being who I am, because sometimes you think, well, is who I am enough for this job? And so just having the confidence to know that who you are is enough. And so that means just being yourself, and that's gotten me this far. So we're gonna roll with it. And it's just been it's been a pretty cool experience. And people ask, should they get in politics? And like, people don't like you or they talk about you, and I don't know. I mean, that part is icky, but at the same time, I mean, they kind of already hated me before they knew me. They weren't on the same page as me with me before, so it's
Sure.
not really me. It's don't take it personal kind of thing. And so just learning how to put that in a space that doesn't affect who you are. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that's a bunch of mumble jumble rambling of
No, no. Not at all.
because I'm learning more and more every day, and I don't know, I'm just like I said, I'm really thankful that our family has just come closer together. That's been a really cool
Yeah.
thing.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I like it. I like the sound of it. And of all things, that last statement you made, it reminded me of a children's book by Max Lucado that our kids love. It's called You Are Special. And it's about how these little wooden people, all made by the same wood carver, and they all judge each other. All day they just give each other stickers. Either stars if you're good or dots if you're bad. And the poor little Wemmicks that just get judged so hard, they're down in the corner, they don't think they're any good or can't do anything until they meet someone who has no marks, because they've decided that what the designer thinks is more important than what everybody else thinks. The
Mhm.
stickers only stick if you let them, is that idea. So you have to find your identity from your maker above all, and that what he thinks is more important than what anybody else thinks. So the stickers only stick if you let them. I don't know. Maybe there's maybe there's something there. I like that.
Yeah, I think I relate. I think I relate. And just truly embracing that is the most important thing in this entire process. I draw a lot of inspiration from Joshua 1:9. I was reading it every day when I woke up and every night before I went to sleep for about 3 weeks straight. Because we're told to be strong and courageous. And so for people to be like, you're too bold, you're too strong, you're too whatever. It just you have to embrace, that's just that's how I'm made. I can't help it.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it is a tough thing to really embrace, but once you do, it just really opens the floodgates and you have confidence. And I think that's why I'm really excited to be on this journey, because I think I've been led on a path that I was made for. And I talk a lot about my purpose. When you find something that you are good at and also you have passion for, you find your purpose. And I think that I have found mine for the time being. And so I'm just really excited about that.
Well,
So
we're excited for you, Samantha Fett, the new Republican candidate for House District 44. Yeah.
22.
Oh, 22. Why did I get that wrong? I should know that by now.
Well,
Strike
22 plus 22 is 44.
that.
So
Reverse it. Let me try that one again. Samantha Fett, the new Republican candidate for House District 22 in our fine state of Iowa. Looking forward to seeing what November brings. I know there's a lot of hard work and a lot of prayers between now and then. So you have ours. Continue to stand boldly, Sam. We appreciate you.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Now go take a nap. If and when you can, go have fun with the fam and the dogs. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to FaithWorks Live. This is meant to be an encouraging conversation. I feel encouraged, and we do need to be bold and courageous. And I think all the voices in the world, the enemy can't shake a confident Christian, but he often seeks to silence us. And if we cooperate with all of that nonsense out there saying that we shouldn't speak up, that we shouldn't take a stand, oh, maybe people won't like us if we do, or oh, maybe there'll be a cost. Let's just bake all that into the cake and then throw it out the window, because what matters is what God says. He says, be bold and courageous, not because you have to be all that, right? There was a meme going around that said, did people in the 90s really say all that in a bag of chips? Yes, I guess we did. But silly cliches notwithstanding, it doesn't have to be all about us. We can be strong and confident in the fact that it's actually all about him, and that we're here as representatives from a heavenly kingdom that cannot be conquered. We are here to stand boldly for freedom, because it is for freedom that Christ has set us free, and that promotes the flourishing of all people everywhere. That is our true desire, and that is what we can guarantee for us, for our generation, for our children, and for our children's children, if we stand based on the biblical principles and the truth of being free in Christ, to serve him and to operate in the abundance that he promises to the people that love him, not without trials, but certainly worth the hard work that it takes to get there. So help us God. That's where we are. And if we stand boldly on those freedoms and on those principles, what can the world do to us from there? Why should we possibly be afraid? If the Lord is on our side, there's no reason to be afraid. So all of that being said, I hope this encourages you to take a stand wherever you are today, whether that's in the political realm, whether that's in your home or in your workplace, or with a personal friendship, with your neighbors, in your community, with the next generation, as you provide an example of what it looks like to live boldly for Christ. And all that means is waking up every day and saying, here I am, Lord. What do you have for me today? Help me take the next step to follow you. That's what I'm going to do. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
With you. Yay! It's a party. It's a party. Thanks for listening to FaithWorks Live. Pass this conversation on to a friend who can use some encouragement and think, yes, winning is possible. We are on the side that ultimately wins, yes, but there's some victories, lots of victory along the way too. And until next time, our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to love God, to serve people, and to live free. Thanks for listening to FaithWorks Live.